So I think we'll make a start and just say welcome to the oneHumber opening event of what hopefully will be a fantastic week of activity here in Humber. Delighted to have H&H with us today, who you'll be hearing from a lot more very shortly. I mean, the oneHumber week really has been born out of this idea of just trying to come together and help each other through what is quite a crisis and has been quite a crisis for the country and certainly in the Humber. Been very difficult. The Humber Resilience Forum, many of you might not even realise that exists, but there's a quite a strong group of people that meet on a regular basis that brings many of the membership organisations together, and we were very clear that we wanted to try and put something on this week in particular to try and help businesses now as we move into really the recovery phase of what I think is at the back end has been a crisis. So one thing I think that I always like about this region, and I do believe it's one of our strengths, is the sense of community. You know, many people describe the Humber as a village. You know, we all know each other, and I think that's actually quite a critical thing at this time at the moment, where we can come together, and many of the groups and membership organisations that have pulled together for this week have all been running a series of events and activities to try and help their members. So I think that's quite critical that we take that forward, I think, over the coming months. I think economic uncertainty is inevitable. You know, we don't want to dwell too much on that today, because this is really a positive event about how we can recover. But it is going to be tough. I think the key thing is really going to be about the speed of recovery for this area and how quickly we can get back to full economic strength. And that's really why today and this week there'll be a series of events that I suspect will continue now to the end of the year to try and help businesses and organisations. Critical to that is going to be micro businesses, for example. You know, businesses trading at that level and getting back into the economy is important. Big enterprise businesses, big manufacturing businesses as well, particularly for this area, are going to be crucial in our recovery too. One thing I will say that is absolutely critical, will make a huge impact, is this thing called the local pound. So trading locally amongst each other, micro businesses, supply chains, big businesses, going to be critical, and will have a huge impact actually in how we recover. We're trying to get more money into the local economy amongst each other, so trading with each other is critical. So, you know, time to start the recovery. I think there's 30 events planned this week alone as part of oneHumber Week, which is fantastic. You know, I would urge as many of businesses, I'm sure you're already doing it, to innovate and trying to redesign what you do and try and find opportunities in, you know, what will come out of this as we come from the recession that will come. I'm sure there'll be lots of opportunities as well. And really working together and collaborating with people is the critical part of this, and that's really what today's about. Very much focus on people and how, you know, their role and your people will play in your recovery for your organisations. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over now to H&H to take us through what will be, I'm sure, an incredibly interesting presentation. I always love watching their stuff, so I can't wait for this. So I'll hand over now to Helen and leave you to it. Thanks very much.
Lovely, thank you, Andy. So hi everybody. It's with equal levels of enthusiasm and apprehension that we open up this week of events. I keep thinking to myself, if only we did more time to practice using video conferencing. Before lockdown, I used to think that speaking to someone online could be a bit awkward. Now it's actually, when I see someone in real life, it's very awkward. So it's you know, very strange times. And the kind of times where every one of us is facing our own challenges, really. For H&H, the first month for us was the most turbulent, I definitely would say. Not necessarily because we had to get our team mobilised, because home working for us was something that was pretty normal before COVID. But it was more about trying to keep the lights on when we could see the lights going out everywhere around us. So for example, one of our biggest clients is in the aviation industry. And as they went into hibernation, so did our projected revenue. And in a state of unprecedented upheaval, many other clients started to put projects that we had been planning for a while on ice, as they grappled with the enormity of actually getting thousands and thousands and thousands of people immobilised and up and running remotely. We really feel like we've probably ridden out the first swell of the storm, and you know, and I think that as I don't know, maybe a sense of confidence, you know, for the rest of, you know, for our regions and for the smaller businesses like ourselves, we are starting to see our large corporate clients turning their attention now to projects that go beyond crisis comms, that they're starting to come to us for support to help them communicate and engage with the business of doing business. So things are starting to, I can't say get back to normal, but they're certainly getting back to some level of normality. So, you know, and what happens is we spend a lot of money locally. So what we're hoping to do is you know, as we recover, so will we be able to continue to spend with the local pound. We feel extraordinarily fortunate. We know this is not everybody's experience, and for many the storm is continuing to raise. But despite the distress that COVID-19 has and may continue to rain upon many, let's be honest, it has undoubtedly presented us with an unprecedented opportunity to make lasting changes to the working experience. Our mission at HMH has always been about revolutionising the way that people communicate, connect and interact at work. However, the changes that are needed in our working environments, changes that keep employees motivated, loyal and going the extra mile, are not happening fast enough. The vast majority of organisations, and I do find this astounding, are still operating from the legacy of business values and structures that were introduced during the Industrial Revolution. For instance, hierarchies, they worked in those periods, they worked in the olden days because the majority of employees performed simple and repetitive tasks. They did what they were told by managers commanding them from the ivory towers. But today in our relationship economy, people want freedom. They want to collaborate, they want to participate, they want to innovate, they want to self-organise. Just think about it for yourself. You know, that is stuff that you almost, you want to take for granted. You want to be trusted, you want autonomy, you want balance, you want to feel included, you want inclusivity, and you absolutely want to be empowered to make your own decisions. Now, really interestingly enough, home working and flexible working are initiatives that have been around for ages and actually introduced as an attempt to address some of these needs of our working populations and the needs of the modern day employee. But as Hannah will share with you later on, despite the extensive benefits of allowing employees to work where, when and how they want, there has been a baffling reluctance from both employers and employees to embrace this fully. However, COVID-19 has absolutely forced everyone's hand on this. And you know what? For me, that just might be the level of disruption needed to make meaningful changes to the way that we think about the work experience. It might just be the spark that leads to a revolution that will significantly increase the number of people and employees who feel engaged and fulfilled at work. And it could actually be a significant contributory factor to our region's recovery. This is what we're going to be exploring in the next hour or so, and there are a number of ways we would love you to get involved. So I'm just going to take you quick navigate of the screen in front of you. Thanks. So at some points in today, we're going to ask you to maybe comment on the chat area, and so you see that down at the bottom of your screen next to, you know, like there's, I mean, mine looks like participants, chat, share screen, record, and then I've got Q&A. So hopefully most of you can see that. So we're going to ask you to operate and interact with us on the chat at certain points. There is also a Q&A. We're not planning, we don't think we have time to be able to answer questions live today, but we'll see how that goes. But please do ask your questions on the Q&A, because we will definitely respond to every question that happens after the event if we don't do it prior to that. There's also at some point later on, and I might just actually show you how to do that later on, but if you click on participants, you know, you get a further set of options there, and one of them is to put your hand up. Now later on, near the end of the presentation and the, you know, like the activities, we're going to ask you, you know, the brave people to put their hands up and perhaps, you know, communicate with us. Like we can make sure there's actually someone there. You know, it's kind of odd this speaking to myself. Okay, so and there is also some polls. We'll be asking you little mini surveys, little polls throughout the process, and you know that you don't need to do anything about that. That's just going to appear on your screen as if by magic, she hopes, fingers crossed. So let's have a look. We're going to start now by looking at the results of the pre-event survey. And Hannah, I hope is going to pop me some visuals.
Sure.
As if by magic again, here we are. So thank you very much to all those who actually, all those who completed the short survey around your working experience pre-COVID. Sorry, during COVID. And it was clear that, I mean, if you can see from this first slide, that 77% of you were actually working from home, of those that responded to us. The 10% were furloughed, 7% from working from the business premises, and 3% were a mix of furlough and home working. So, you know, it was, you know, for us that was useful, because actually, you know, a lot of the questions that then followed from that were about, you know, your experience of home working. So the first thing, Hannah, if you can slide on, we asked you to what extent you agreed and disagreed with a range of statements around home working. And here we're looking at those that specifically said that they had been working at home. So you can see here, like on the first column, that the majority of people, 83%, said that they had felt very connected to their colleagues during lockdown, which is really interesting. I think is a really interesting outcome, given that we've not actually seen any of our colleagues, you know, any of that time. And so that was useful to see that. And when it came to collaboration, it was a little less convincing, but it was with more of a split between those agreeing and disagreeing. But there is still a majority of 65% agreeing that they were able to collaborate just as effectively as they did before lockdown. And what about productivity? Well, there's certainly, and this is the third column, you know, there's certainly not a high level of disagreement with the idea that you've been more productive since going into lockdown. But there is a marked increase in those who are neither agreeing or disagreeing. So those that are sitting on the fence, those that are a little more neutral. So why were so many people neutral on the question of productivity? Now we have to be careful here, because we can't really draw definite conclusions, because we're getting into smaller numbers, but based on the comments of the people who did say that they, who neither agreed or disagreed about productivity, the neutrality looks to be driven by three key factors, and maybe you might recognise these yourself. Either they had worked at home prior to lockdown, so they knew already that they could be productive, you know, and working remotely, or their productivity had been impacted by either having children in the house, which maybe a lot of you might actually associate with. I mean, I know that we've got five or six team members with young children, and my goodness me, I don't know how they, you know, they're managing, you know, sometimes with the energy of the children around them. Or it was the fact that they now were at home with other people in the house, you know, trying to work, and, you know, they're divvying up bedrooms between them, how to, you know, where to work, or that they didn't have the appropriate technology or broadband. So what this kind of told us was that those working from home found that on the whole they could still collaborate, and stay connected with their co-workers, and that for most people productivity either increased or stayed about the same. So now let's move on to the next slide, Hannah, and look at how likely it was that those who responded to us would want to continue to work at home after lockdown. Well, almost 90% of people said that they could see themselves working from home more in the future. Now, this slide tells its own story, and you know, and I think I alluded to it at the beginning about this reluctance of employers. Only 34% of people agreed that they thought it was likely that their employer would positively encourage home working. Now, for me, that's interesting, you know, and I'm kind of kicking myself now that I didn't put an open question in there, because I'm thinking, whoa, wonder why. You know, 17% disagreed, and half the respondents neither agreed or disagreed with the statement. So I did have a look at the open comments, and there wasn't really any indication in there why so many people didn't agree with the idea that their employer would positively encourage home working. So what I'd like to do, fingers crossed, is take this opportunity to have our first live poll. So hopefully there's some really clever, quizzy person sitting in the background. Oh, there it is. It's already here. Wow, look at this. Brilliant. Hopefully you can all see this poll. So what stops organisations, do you think, if it's possible, to work remotely? And here is, I believe the biggest barrier is, if you would like to have a look through these answers, that would be great. And I'm going to give you apparently a little, like maybe 30 seconds or so, and then we'll reveal the answers. Apparently the answers will be revealed when enough of you have voted. So I have no control over this at all. It's feeling a bit weird. Okay. Don't know, is that it? Yes, it's coming up. Ah, okay. So this is quite, oh, right, this is really interesting, isn't it? So there is a little bit about technology there, absolutely. And, you know, but it looks like the number one answer, you know, actually, they're both connected. They're both connected, the answers, aren't they, really? If you look, not enough love, enough trust for leaders and managers. Really interesting. And also concerns around time management and discipline. Those two, for me, some level of connection between the two. But that is, I think Hannah will be quite pleased and the rest of it, because if not, you might have scuppered things that are coming up lately. But thank you ever so much, and what great news that the poll actually works and we're up and running. So fabulous, thank you. So actually, right, okay, let's be honest. On the face of it, from an employer's perspective, there aren't actually too many obvious benefits from allowing employees to work from home. I mean, it really does take a lot more effort to communicate them with employees at home or remotely. It doesn't even need to be at home. You have to manage expectations differently. You have to, I mean, the way that you approach the reviewing of the work and so on is all different. It takes more effort. You need to invest in technology to make sure that you can enable it. And you have to go over any trust barrier, as we've just seen there, as well as any traditional and ingrained views and attitudes. Is the effort really worth it? I mean, would the significant benefits for employees be the difference that makes the difference? Is this where the hidden benefit lies? What about you, Hannah?
Thank you, H. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, H? Just to check. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Do you know what I'm going to try and remember to do as I start to deliver my piece? And what I've noticed since we've started doing video conferencing is I'm going to take a breath every now and again. I could well run away with myself, but I'm going to try and stop, because, you know, we've been having gym sessions and Pilates sessions back home, beamed into our rooms. And we quickly discovered that when there's silence, people want to fill it. And our gym instructor and our Pilates tutor, all of a sudden, there was no gaps in between exercises. There was no little breathers. It was straight the way through. So I'm just going to try and remind myself as I go through this, just to pause, breathe, give you guys a minute to let things sink in. Okay, so, hey everybody, hello, welcome to my home. I can't tell you how reassuring it was when those results came through this weekend with H and I, to discover that what you're telling us is being reflected around the world. Not least of which because it meant I didn't have to revisit my entire presentation last night and redo it, so phew. But I think it's really interesting to discover actually that what we're seeing through research that's being done around the world, we're also feeling here at home as well in our own region. And this is a great thing, but seriously, so the results are in on a global scale, and for those, as H says, that don't have a million kids to juggle, because we know that that's got its own difficulties, working from home is proving really, really popular. So popular that, like you, a high number of people want to continue to do it post-lockdown. And when you look at the figures of what's going on here around that appetite, you can see what a massive increase it is from where we were pre-COVID to where we are today. And before I share any data around that or I'll give you an example of where I'm getting that idea from, I just want to say to you that the majority of the data that I'm using here today in this presentation, has come from a report produced by Iometrics and Global Workplace Analytics. It was compiled by two of the most respected experts in workplace strategy, and it's hot off the press. It's like red hot off the press. It came out in the last couple of weeks. So it's been really fascinating, and for us to get our hands on that and to look at it in terms of our own region. Any other sources that we're using in this presentation are cited at the bottom of the slide. So there we go. There's all the data robustness. So you can trust what you're seeing here. And without further ado, let's have a little look at what's going on. So working from home pre-COVID, this is on a global level, and we've just looked at our local version, but working from home pre-COVID, around 31% of the respondents had worked from home in some capacity or were doing regularly. What the research is now telling us that 76% want to continue to work from home post-COVID. Quite a significant shift. And that's what's screaming to us, that actually this whole experience is going to transform the way that we want to work in the future. There's clearly appetite for it. And when we talk about working from home, this is not full-time. That comes with its own issues, which we'll go into shortly. But in terms of working from home during the week, the preference is coming out around 2 to 3 days a week. So we're not abandoning the office here at all. And so the reason, why do people like it so much? Okay, let's look at this. So the reason people like it so much has been surprising, particularly for those, like this is myself included, and I've said these things myself, who imagined it would be hard to concentrate, because we all know, well, depends how well you keep your house, I guess, but there are a ton of domestic chores screaming and vying for your attention in the home environment. And I had always imagined that as somebody that gets quite easily distracted, I would be, you know, I'd find it difficult to concentrate while that's happening. But it's not just employees who were thinking that, employers too, you know, who might have assumed that, okay, people are going to put a few hours in before they kick back and indulge in a few box sets, you know. There was definitely some doubts around whether working from home could actually work on this scale for a long term. So some of these stats here, really incredibly powerful. You know, you've got 77% of people fully productive working from home. And when you look at, if I can move this window, when you look at why that is, why that productivity is happening, it's really interesting. So we are finding that we can be more productive, and that tends to be because we have less interruptions and distractions. We all know what it's like at the office when you're just deep in thought and somebody walks up to your desk and interrupts you with a left field question. It's also meaning that we can increase our time to focus on things for extended periods of time. So that means we can focus and concentrate better. And this, relating to Andy's point earlier, around how as a region we need to be creative and innovative around this situation. When you're able to focus and concentrate, the quality of that thinking and the ability to see ideas through is stronger. We've had somebody, well, I've heard one of our own team say to me that she's been really pleasantly surprised at how her quality of creative thinking has massively improved, because she's got the space to let her ideas flow and she can follow her thoughts through to a conclusion, you know, rather than getting interrupted and losing that thread of thought. So the quality of the output of where she's reaching is much better. It's fair to say we're certainly not missing our commutes or the amount of money that we're spending on travel and lunches. We're able to squeeze in more time for exercise. Well, I say this, we are, some of us may be, and some of us might not be. We'll explore that further a little later. But in general, we're finding we've got more flexibility around our work and non-work needs. So the message is loud and clear. This has given us more control, more time, better quality of life. And that's something we really, really do need to listen to, because these are really important things. Why is this important? Well, when you've got people when you've got your team feeling positive, when you've got your team feeling motivated and are being productive, as we're seeing here, these are all factors that will likely translate into increase in employee engagement. Now, this employee engagement is not a nice to have, it's actually a really important and great thing for business success. It does translate into some incredible impact on factors, success factors like you can see here. So it's likely to make you as a business more efficient. It's likely to grow turnover. It will deliver you better profitability, and it helps you outperform your competitors. But best of all, it gives you a happier and more fulfilled team. And for me, that's an absolute no-brainer. You know, why would you not want any of these outcomes in your business? So we can see here what's to be gained in increasing engagement scores. And if home working is proving so effective for people, and they're finding all of these, they're finding that it's, you know, a better place to be, it's a more balanced place to be, they're more productive, it will impact and it will result in some of these outcomes if we take note of it and if we listen. So lockdown has created, as H said earlier, this has been disruption on a grand scale. Without lockdown, I don't think we would ever have seen how successful home working can be, or how it would prove to be. And now that the genie is out of the bottle, it clearly is, it really shouldn't go back in anytime soon. We really can't let this, what we've discovered here, we really must not let this be forgot. And we mustn't go back to our old ways, because there's too much good coming out of this for us to go back to where we were before. We've known for years that flexible working is a good thing. There's plenty of evidence to support it. And do you know what? It's good because it gives people more choice about where, how, and when they work. And that means that they can play more to their own strengths. We all know what's best for ourselves. We all know what works for us. And you know, whether you're an early bird, whether you're a night owl, whether you like the peace and quiet or hubbub of an open plan office, if you can find the environment that works best for you, then it's highly likely that you're going to work better and that you're going to be more productive. So it does surprise me that this hasn't been more popular before now, that home working's not been an option for as many people as perhaps it could have been, or it should have been. When you look at the figures around how many people were working from home in the UK pre-COVID to now, it's quite a significant difference. I was really, really surprised when I saw the figures. I mean, we've gone from 1.7 million people working from home in some capacity before this happened to 20 million. And that's an increase of 91.5%. It's incredible. It's a huge shift. And for me, what's most surprising about that is that it kind of proves that it was always possible for that many people to have the option to work from home if they wanted to. What was stopping it was that organisations were not making it part of their employee offer. And that's surprising, don't you think? Now, we know that there's, you know, there has been doubts, and I you know, it was so interesting to see the results of the live poll that Helen just ran, because actually that's what I think is at the heart of it. That's what I think was part of the problem. It was those doubts about whether people could be trusted to work in their own homes and to work effectively. And you know, I've lost count of the number of times that I heard employers saying things like, yeah, but will they really work? Or will they just skive? You know, how will I know what people are working on? How will I know they're even working? It's just a level of trust, lack of level of trust there that was surprising. But really, to be fair, wasn't just employers, employees too, myself included, had a few niggles around, I'd get too easily distracted. I already said this, you know, there's things to be done around the house. How will I concentrate? I can't switch that off. Or I need to be in the right mindset to go to work, and actually stepping out of the house, getting in my car, driving to the office helps me, you know, get into that space. So I think we all know that there, you know, that there were some doubts, but actually also there are fundamental barriers that could stop an organisation from offering home working. The technology, you know, the infrastructure needed to enable it to happen, keeping people connected, concerns about teamwork and collaboration, all were seemed to be at times insurmountable and not worth the effort to go through, because nobody really knew whether at the other side of it, it would have been all worthwhile and it would pay off. So actually, this disruption, this situation, as horrendous as it is and the reasons why it's happened, not ideal, don't get me wrong, you know, but it has proven to us actually that effort to overcome those things, a lot of which we've now gone through and come out the other side of, are well worth the effort to continue to do it from now. But just in case, just in case there is any doubts why home working is good for business, let's have a closer look at a few more of these benefits, because I tell you what, collectively, together in this region, they're worth remembering. We must remind ourselves as we move forward into whatever becomes our new normal, let's not forget, let's not lose sight of what we've learned here through this process around home working. Let's have a look at what it's been doing for us and what it can do for business actually. So top of the list is losing the commute. No great surprise there. Oh my God, anybody really like the commute? However, the commute, actually I have some of my best ideas in the car, but hey, that's like, but look at that saving on time in commute. The average commute in the Yorkshire and Humber is 52 minutes a day. That's a lot of time to save back doing something a bit more meaningful. Then there's the fact that working from home gives you, you know, there are less interruptions and distractions. You know, sometimes they're good interruptions, yeah, we'll say that. But in terms of unwanted interruptions and distractions, the research is showing that there's almost like an average of 35 minutes a day to be back in your pocket, to be dedicated to productive, meaningful work. Wow, okay, so you can see where I'm coming from. This time saving is quite significant. And then there's the fact that we spoke about, that having that, you know, being at home gives you more time to concentrate and focus on the things that matter, and that this improves the quality of thinking. This allows you to be more creative and innovative, to explore ideas more fully. So time is a big piece. Another area that people are seeing improvements around is in their well-being. And I'm not going to reveal the results for these just yet. I'd really like to find out, because I found this particular part fascinating. I'd really love to find out whether you find out what your experience has been around aspects of well-being, and to compare it with the global data. So if the magical poll will arrive for us, I just invite you to read the 4 statements presented here around well-being and select those for you that you'd say ring true. So we've got 4 statements here. I have more flexibility to balance my work and non-work needs. I exercise more often. I eat healthier, and my overall well-being is better. If they resonate with you, if that's been your experience whilst working from home, tick those that ring true. And these results will arrive when we think everybody's had chance to answer. So perhaps some people are pondering, giving this some good thought.
Here they come.
Here they come. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's quite compelling, isn't it? And I wonder if that's because we're not dashing around so much as you do when you're racing around in offices and going here and there and everywhere. But the flexibility to balance work and non-work life, very, very high, very high. Exercising more often and overall well-being being better. Excellent. That's really, really useful. Thank you. So let's see how that compares now to the results that we were seeing on a global level, see how that compares. So absolutely, I think that just tallied up almost exactly the same, you know. So yeah, there's definitely the opportunity to flex between work and your non-work needs. I wonder if that, because you're able to do that, there's less stress and so you're able to sleep better. Eating healthier, you're not diving into the deli and getting tempted by those, you know, by the pastries and the pies, and exercising more often. And in our case, exercising harder because we don't get any gaps. Fabulous. You know, this makes a massive case because wellbeing is so important within our organisations. You are not going to get the best from people if they're not feeling their best. So thank you very much. Okay, so we've got wellbeing, we've got time, all getting big ticks. You know what else it does? It saves people money. It saves people money because they're not having to pay for the commute. They're not buying, well, I would, you know, fancy pants lunches in delis up the street like I do. The average employee in the Humber is actually saving, would you believe it, £43 every week currently. Now, clearly, that's a full week back home. We're not suggesting that post-lockdown people go to working from home full time. But actually, if you look at that and divide it, you can do the maths. There is a cost saving to employees, and this is all great. But most importantly, all of those benefits to employees have a significant kickback benefit to the business as well. Not only would employees see an upswing in the hours that people have available to them to work and therefore to be more productive, they're also happier, healthier, and then improving the bottom line. And let's not forget that if you have 40% reduction, say if people are working 2 days a week from home, then you've got a 40% reduction in the utilisation of your office space. And therefore, there is an opportunity to reduce that office space and save the overhead costs. So plenty of good reasons why any business could consider home working a good thing to do, not just for their people, not just for engagement, but also for results. And finally, for us in the Humber, this is a really important one, and not to forget, it is kinder to our environment. Now, we've already seen from this lockdown experience how the reduction in traffic can absolutely transform our surroundings. Nature is returning into our cities and streets. Deers have been seen roaming the main streets in towns and villages. You know, pollution has dropped dramatically, giving countries like India some much needed respite from all those pollutants. So just think about what these initiatives could do to help contribute to our cleaner climate and our zero carbon ambitions that we have through Waterline in the region. This could be play a significant part in making that a reality. I just find this stat on the screen here just phenomenal. You know, if those with remote compatible jobs in the UK, and clearly working from home is not achievable or possible for those that are in manufacturing or hospitality, we are talking about those that it's possible to do so with. If all of those in the UK that could do it, did do it, it would result in 54 million tonnes of greenhouse gas, equivalent of taking 10 million cars off the road. Okay, so that's if we did it all full time. But you can see the scale that we've got to work with, what the opportunity here is. I'm sure you'll agree it's quite a compelling case. As far as we can see, remote working and home working is here to stay for all the right reasons. And as engagement specialists, we couldn't be more delighted. It's really, it's ticking it's ringing lots of bells for us around what's great. We're applauding the likes of Twitter who've announced that their employees are allowed to work from home forever. A great decision that empowers their people to choose what's best for them at any point in time. And we think that's great. And choice is the key thing here. Choice, choice, choice. Okay. Engagement happens when people have the opportunity to choose what's right for them. And so one size does not fit all. We're certainly not saying everybody switch across. There is still a place for the office. The office has so much to offer in terms of providing that sense of identity. It's where culture really comes to life, where colleagues bond through socialization beyond talking about the worky stuff. Well, even talking about the worky stuff, why not? And where collaboration can happen more naturally and organically. Just to support that idea, you can see from these results here, what aspects of home working and office working can really come to life within those two different environments. So on the left-hand side here, where the two columns are, you know, it's easier to manage distractions and interruptions and think creatively and innovatively when you're at home. However, when it came down to collaborating, working with others, coaching and mentoring other people, you can see here that the office was generally deemed to be much more effective around those kind of activities. So for some, myself included, the office environment has, you know, still has a big place in my heart. You know, for me, I've discovered that the office environment is providing me with the external stimulus that I need to keep my energy levels high and keep my creativity flowing. Working from home, I found, you know, full-time can be quite an isolating and lonely experience, and perhaps some of you could relate to that. We had this great statement that came through on the pre-event survey, which, you know, really resonated with me. Initially, I thought working from home created a greater sense of freedom, and gradually I began to long for the structure and superior broadband connection of the office. And it would be a relief to have a distinct and separate work-home office once again. I wanted to bring some balance to this discussion. I wanted to bring some, this is about highlighting the benefits of offering working from home. It's also about recognizing and celebrating the great benefits that the office can bring too. But this is all about where we work. This is about the environment in which we work. And that's only one factor that can influence employee engagement. In fact, there's a raft of other influences that happen that can impact on positive engagement. And we've seen so many other positive behaviours come to light during these past 10 weeks. And I'm going to hand back to H now to have a little look at those because they've been equally fascinating to us as engagement specialists too. And we think there's some great learnings in there that we can take away with us.
Thank you, Hannah. Hannah, just as a piece of housekeeping, I cannot see the slides anymore for whatever reason. I can't bring them back, so I'm just having to trust you, my darling, to follow this, and when I need to, that's fine. But I won't have any idea what people are seeing, so I hopefully everybody will be all right with that.
No worries, H. We can do this.
Anyway, you know, up to now we've actually focused much of our time, you know, pretty specifically on remote and flexible working, and for most of us, actually, you know, the truth being is that that's the thing that's been most obvious and most obviously changed for us over the, you know, like certainly compared to how we all worked previously. Hannah's already shared with you quite comprehensively there the potential benefits of letting people continue to work from home, and you know, if it's a really strong and really powerful caveat, if it's appropriate for the individual and the business. It's got to be for both of them. She also touched on how giving employees choice about how and when and where they work can impact their engagement levels. And we've mentioned this word engagement a number of times now, and you know, we kind of like, it's a, you know, it's almost, you know, for us a jargon word that we've gotten so used to. But let me just clarify what we do actually mean by engagement. I mean, the concept of engagement has been around for the last few decades, and it was first coined 1990, around about there in an academic article, but it kind of like, at that point, it was starting to replace HR-led concepts of employee satisfaction. But it wasn't really until the McLeod report in 2009 that it took off as a movement. And simply put, employee engagement is a measure of the health and strength of the relationship between an employee and their organisation. I'm hoping that there was something came on the screen there.
The screen, H, we're nailing it, don't worry. It's good.
We're nailing it, that's superb. Oh my goodness. You know, maybe we should work together. According to Gallup, engaged employees, right, and this is what's important, engaged employees, there's a massive list, I can tell you. You can think about it yourself. Think about when you've really, really enjoyed, if you're an employee or have been an employee, think about the times when you really enjoyed your job. It meant more than a wage packet, it meant much more to you. You know, because engaged employees, when you are in that state, you'll overcome challenges and barriers. You'll find solutions to problems that are holding back performance, not just your own, but the business's performance. You'll seek ways to perform at your best. You will do that. You won't wait on anybody else doing that for you. You'll do it. You'll look for ways to increase your levels of engagement with the business. If you're not motivated, you'll do something to motivate yourself. And you take responsibility for your performance. You know, don't blame other people if things don't go the way that you wanted it to. So I mean, that's only a few of the benefits, you know, that's only a few of the characteristics that you'd expect from an engaged person. So it's not difficult, therefore, to see why an organisation with higher levels of employee engagement scores will outperform those with lower levels of engagement. Imagine if every person in your team was behaving in such a way. I mean, and you know, and I don't actually have to imagine, I shouldn't really say that, you know, boast about this, but I think actually everybody in my team is behaving in that way, so it's absolutely marvellous, so we're great. But you know what, it would be criminal if they weren't, based on what we know and what we do as a business. But anyway, what I wanted to do actually is just at this point, you know, go over to the magic behind the scenes and bring up another poll. Which of the following outcomes would you most like to see more of in your business? I feel like I should be doing some elevator music or dance.
Yeah, why don't you sing for us?
You know, actually, I think I'm doing like Tales of the Unexpected for those. The younger people in the audience will be like, what is she talking about? But you know, those of a certain age, you'll know what I'm doing here. Right, looks as if you're taking your time. But Danny, have we got some results here? Whoa, we do indeed. Ah, excellent. Right, okay, well, turnover of employees doesn't seem to be an issue, or certainly not as powerful an issue, but increased productivity, of course, who would not want that? Who would like increased customer retention and increased innovation? Actually is the number one answer. Very, very good. Thanks, Danny. Well, the good news is actually, you know, you could have any one of those things. You could accept all of those outcomes if you increase the levels of employee engagement within your organisation. And you know, the thing is, you know, a lot of people, you know, kind of think, well, how do you do that? Well, actually, do you know what? We know how to do it. We do know how to do it. You know, it's not actually that difficult. However, it baffles me. It totally baffles me as an expert, not just as an expert in employee engagement, but as a business owner, why so many businesses are still operating in ways that actually actively disengage their people rather than engage them. I mean, we know that flexible working is a key driver of engagement. It is important, but actually, it's not the number one driver. Time to test you again. Oh God, these polls are like buses. None of them for ages, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 here they come. So I'm going to, and this time, there is actually a right answer to this. What do you think is the most powerful driver of employee engagement? I kind of like, I should have had another theme tune there lined up.
You've got a series of hats to be putting on, or masks to put on to entertain people.
Do imitation, like Okay, Danny, the scores on the doors, please. Okay, nice. All right. So we have salary, perks and benefits with 80%, authenticity of the leadership tool, yeah, a relationship with the line manager, and organisational ethics and integrity come top of the line. Or certainly in terms of your poll answers here. Well, yes, absolutely. All of them are powerful drivers of employee engagement. And yeah, absolutely, ethics and integrity is super important to levels of engagement. Yet the answer, and the answer that always comes out in, it don't matter how many employees you speak to or what pieces of research you've looked at, or, you know, and actually the initial reports, you know, right from the McLeod days, Danny, that's fine, you can clear that one off now, is that it's about a mix between B and C. The contending for the top spot is the authenticity of the leadership and people's relationship with their line manager are the #1 drivers of employee engagement. It's all about how people feel about leadership and management. And this lockdown is actually, as well as all the flexible home working, has served us up some delicious lessons in this area. Do you know, and you actually think back to, you know, at the first poll that we did, and we looked at, you know, why do we think managers are not actually, you know, why do we think the employers are not offering more, you know, home working and flexible working, remote working? Our top answer was lack of trust from managers and leaders. Now, do you know, until that is addressed as the #1 driver of engagement, you know, we're not going to move forward. But the thing was about, and we must take these because I think COVID-19 became the great leveler. It became the great leveler. I mean, we've saw CEOs of multinational, you know, global organizations speaking to people from their kitchen. And you know, and when you take a leader out of you know, that sort of, you take them out of behind a podium or a polished video and you put them in their kitchen, things change. It made everything, it flattened the hierarchy overnight, COVID-19, you know, situation where we were all the same. It made everything more personal, more authentic, more real. And this is what employees are looking for. The sense that we're all in it together, that my leaders, my managers trust me to do a great job, and that they matter to the employees and leaders. And so I would love to see some more of that authenticity carrying back through, you know, and you know, the realization that we are all the same, we are all individuals, we all have kitchens. Okay, so once the manager had provided their teams with the tools that they needed to do their jobs, because that was a big job, you know, for a lot of managers, making sure that the people were enabled to be able to do the work, they just had to get out of the way and just trust that people would crack on and do a good job. For some, that would have been easy. It certainly was for me. For others, that would have been quite a challenge, I would imagine. Like, you know, but I'm hoping that by going through the challenge, that actually, what they realised, nothing bad happened. People actually did a good job, you know, when you allow them to. This is what people want from their managers. They don't want managers that you know, that are breathing down their neck. They want managers that will trust them, that managers that will be not micromanaging their every move, but will guide them, you know, and allow them, give them the things that they need to do their job well, but then get out the way. And I'm hoping that we've learned that as well. The other thing was like with things changing minute by minute, I'm sure this was in your organisation as well. I mean, I was communicating with our team You know, literally, you know, by the hour, things were changing in the first week. You know, at one point we had this project starting, the next point it wasn't. Then there was a project getting pulled forward. You know, it was absolutely madness. But with things changing by minute, leaders and managers really did have to put more time into communicating with the remote workers. You know, it did take more effort in the beginning to make sure that everybody had heard everything. So you couldn't just stand up and allow the office, you know, sort of, you know, like word of mouth to spread things. But this actually is what people want all the time. Not just in times of crisis. They want to be kept involved. They want to be privy to information as it's happening. They're not really that bothered that you have no conclusion. They just want to know that you're thinking about stuff. I mean, the amount of times I said to our team, I have no idea what's going to happen. I literally have no idea. All I can tell you is what's going to happen this week, right? Now, the feedback that we got, and actually speaking to other business owners and leaders, that made such a difference to people. It's the quietness. It's trying to get your message too polished that's a problem. Just, you know, be authentic. Tell people when you don't know. We had lots of people come to us for you know, and ask us, how do we communicate things we don't know? Say you don't know. You know, that is simple. It's simple. You know, yes, people they want to know that you're thinking about it. They don't want to know that you're abdicating, but they want to know that you're thinking about it. And then, you know, finally, as good as we were before COVID, we thought we were actually quite good about, you know, using digital platforms, but we are definitely much more connected on our digital platforms now than we ever were. In fact, you know, we didn't even realise the level of functionality that there was to these products that we were all using every day. And what they've done is they've enabled a quick message here, a quick update there. It's much more regular, it's much more bite-sized, it's much more focused. We've noticed that our meetings are much tighter, that we stay on time, we stay on track, that you know, like this, we use our time much more wisely than we used to. And also, we actually are more respectful of other people's time. And we have learned so many lessons about how digital can enable that. And I'm hoping that people will take that back through with them. Speaking to other business owners and, you know, our clients that we work with, I don't think that we're alone in any of these beliefs and any of these observations of how we've seen. And it's learnings that we must bring with us into the future. And you know, if we did this as a region, it could have a significant impact on our future prosperity. Hannah?
Thanks, H. Okay, so we're speaking about engagement. You may be wondering, what's engagement like across our region? How good at it actually are we? What's the current state of play? And what's the opportunity for us? What difference could it make to us all if we were to make a concerted effort around engagement within our organisations? And it's particularly meaningful right now, given that we're going to be re-emerging and we're going to be going through the recovery piece, to consider actually what is available to us on the table to play for, and that could make a significant difference as we go through the next year or so. You'll be delighted to hear, as we were, that a recent study revealed that the Yorkshire and Humber region is actually the happiest place to work. And I might need to caveat this was pre-COVID, but it's still wonderful news. You know, we were doing well around engagement. And when you consider that you're looking at that in relation to the South and to London, look at our score. I mean, that's phenomenal. So being the happiest place to work is a great place to start around engagement. When you consider actually what it was, what were the factors that they were basing that result on? What was it that they were measuring, and what were they looking at? Well, at the top of the list, we're getting on better with our teams, and we consider that we're actually establishing good friend relationships in the workplace. We're obviously, enjoying ourselves and our relationships as a region, and that's brilliant. So we're doing the most meaningful kind of work, and we all know that unless there's a greater purpose behind what we're doing, you can soon lose interest. And And particularly if it's not interesting either, you know, it's a bit like me doing a jigsaw during lockdown, which felt like a good idea at the time, but is still sitting barely touched right now. Didn't quite feel meaningful to me with that. However, so these are great factors on which, you know, this particular report looked at the different regions and identified Yorkshire and the Humber as one of the happiest places to work. Fabulous, great news, absolutely great news. That leaves us with 23% of our people feeling disengaged. Okay, and this is where it gets interesting. This is what's really exciting. So if we've got 23% of our people, that equates to, and this is, you know, around about 903,616 people who are disengaged. And Gallup tells us they've identified that for every disengaged employee, it could be costing the economy approximately £2,368 a year in lost revenue. And that's through absenteeism, through illness, through low productivity. So if anybody can do the maths on that and figure out what the, you know, what the lost opportunity here is across our region, hats off to you if you've just done that piece of maths. But for those like myself who need a calculator, brace yourself, this is quite a shocking amount of money. Incredible. Okay, so what we're talking about here is this is what's available to us as an opportunity as a region. If we were to look at engagement, improve our engagement, and these are small things that we can do actually with a big prize in mind, this is our opportunity. This is what employee engagement can deliver for us. And I think given the climate that we're in and the situation we're in, it's a, you know, there's a very good reason for us to take that on board and consider it. This is a good thing. So H, there's what's on the table. And now it's back to you. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, I can indeed. Thank you. So everybody, thank you. I'm hoping that you're all still here. You know, I'm sure you are. I've lost all functionality on I can't see who's here, who's not. I can't see nothing. So it's all right. But that's okay. We'll sort that out in a minute because I do want to look at it. But anyway, I'm kind of like, you know, hoping that what we've done today and what we're leaving you with is enough evidence, both rational and emotional, to make a difference to the way that you think about working experiences in the future. I mean, if you're an employee, there has never been a better time for you to push for change. I mean, we are currently in no man's land between what was and what will be. This is the place where we can make the changes. If you're an employer, there has never been a better time for you to be bold, to try new ways of working. I mean, look at it, you were forced into a new way of working. Have your fears been overcome? Have you been surprised about how much you can actually do that's different from what you normally do? It's time to explore, it's time to listen to your people, it's time to adapt, it's time to evolve and motivate and allow employees to be the best that they can be. As Hannah mentioned, if we focus collectively as a region to have the highest level of employee engagement in the country, which we can continue to do, it would follow that our businesses would also be some of the most innovative, productive, profitable and sustainable in the UK. And for many of you, you've already told us, you know, almost 50% and answered the poll, you want more innovation. This is a pivotal moment. So the question is, what will you do? I'd like you to actually just take a moment to think about what your takeaway is from the session today. What has this session left you thinking and feeling? I mean, if you want to, I'd really love it if you were to share your thoughts on the chat function. This is where you tip down and, you know, and share your thoughts with us on the chat function. And in a moment, I'm going to see if someone can talk me through being able to see the chat function. And also, if you would like to verbally share it with us, then this is where you can go into the participant area and look and see whether you can actually, you know, put your hand up. And we may come out to one or two of you to interact with us if you feel brave enough. So just take a moment, then that would be great. And I think someone might have sorted me out. Okay, it looks like something's happened. Right. Participants, I can see participants. No, I can't see. No, I can see chat now. Yes, this is all going well. Fabulous. Thank you. Whoever is working the magic behind the scenes, you've sorted me right out then. So I would love to see some of them coming through, please. Some of your thoughts. What is the session left you thinking and feeling? It'd be great to see your takeaways.
There's an interesting comment here, actually, just relating to something a bit further back, H, which is around that people, somebody's added that they think people are also not having to rush off to get children to school or packing their weekends with social activities, which also contributes to our well-being. We just have more time generally now, even though we might still be working full time, which is a really great point. Thank you, Helen.
Okay. Can I just add a technical question to whoever can answer it? Can other people see the chat? Can everybody see the chat?
I think it defaults to sharing with the panelists, and unless people actually choose to share with all attendees as well, it will default just to panelists.
That's it. At the moment, all the comments coming through, Hannah, are just going to panelists. So perhaps it's worth reading them out. But you can choose as an attendee to share your thoughts with the wider group.
That's great. So somebody, Anna's mentioned here, it's made me even more passionate about progressing more flexible ways of working. The data is so powerful. Thank you.
Would anybody like to speak to us? I guess, Danny, you'll be able to see if people put their hands up?
Yes, I can see if people put their hands up. I can allow them to talk.
Okay, so is there anybody at this moment who would like to say hello to us and let us know how, what they're thinking and feeling after the session today?
I can assure you that it's audio only in case you're worried.
No. Are we all thinking, oh, I'm very comfortable here, I'll just stay in my space here? Way at the beginning I talked about how awkward it was to actually connect with people.
Oh, we have one hand. David. David, I'm just going to allow you to talk.
Hello, David.
David, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi, it's Dave Laister from the Hull Daily Mail, Grimsby Telegraph. I just wondered, very interested, I've been sat in my dining room below the stairs, with my own office for the last 10 weeks, and I've found it okay. There's good highs and lows with 2 primary school children. But I just wondered, so many office workers are sort of town and city centre based, which yes comes with that horrible commute and the hassles of that, but it also provides hours where people go out and maybe hit retail, hit cafes, convenience stores and everything. I just wondered, if we want this quick recovery and while we're embracing home working and everything, are we not in danger of losing that, the stretched and already under pressure retail before COVID-19? Is it going to hurt that even more if people don't come back in their numbers, if people do stay at home?
Yeah. Do you know, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, and then I'm not going to, I can only give you my opinion. I mean, what we're saying is it's not necessarily around, people working either one or the other. It's just, the key message for us was about flexibility. Give people the option, I think what we will see is people will want to, they'll still do a lot of the things that they would do. They'll get the economy going. But what you'll see is they can do that in a way that's more meaningful to them. So therefore you will have happy, for me, it's a cycle. You have happier people, you have more successful businesses, you have more money, people spend more money. It's kind of like it's an ongoing cycle. But I do see that you put something on chat, and I'm going to go and look, David, to see if there is any real robust data around it. And we'll definitely share that out after the event.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We have one more hand here, Hannah. So Jessica, I'm just going to allow you to talk.
Oh, well done, Jessica. You're allowed to talk.
Unfortunately, Jessica, sorry, it's just given me a notification here to say that you're using an older version of Zoom, so I'm unable to allow you to talk. It's not very nice, is it?
Yeah. Okay, right. So what I think we'll do, is like, you know, and this is the great part about what we've noticed, you know, in terms of it, is actually we've been really efficient. We've gotten through. We don't have to take it to 11 o'clock. But you know, if I hand over to Andy, he may well feel that he needs to fill that time. But what we do is, I just want to conclude our piece. So I just really like thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being part of this opening event. And you know, just let me leave you with one last thought. You know, the an ounce of execution is worth more than a ton of good intention. And so I'd really want to encourage us, be bold, take action, do what we think's right for our employees. Thanks, and over to Andy.
Thank you very much to you guys. That was fascinating. So many interesting insights in there, and what I love about it is that it does raise lots of questions. And as David has alluded to there, it just raises all of these other issues, and I think that's part of the process now is to work through it, isn't it? And just one takeaway from me, just there's a stat stuck in my head of what you talked about there, was that potentially 40% of people's office space or sort of capital footprint wouldn't necessarily be needed. And I do wonder, what would we do with all the empty space? Because, and maybe actually, you know, it could become accommodation and residence. Maybe it could become flats and houses, and maybe it could sort of still drive city centres in a different way. I don't know. It just makes me think. So, really good question I thought from David there. So that's a great one, and great things on the chat as well. So thank you both for doing that. I mean, I think that was, as always, really, really insightful. I'm sure the participants have got a lot from that. Just to wrap up now for 1 minute, you know, thanks for joining, thanks for coming on. And as always for getting involved. There's a lot of events happening this week, so I would, you know, advise to look at the oneHumber website. I think that the Humber LEP has a program of activities on their website. I think we do as well on Marketing Humber. So have a look at that, and please join. In the future, coming up from a Marketing Humber perspective, the Waterline Summit, you know, that was referenced earlier is going ahead. So it won't go ahead in the way it did last year, but it will go ahead. So we will be running that event at the end of October. So look out for that. We've got many ideas about how we can deliver that program. The Tech Expo in November will be going ahead as well. So that's something again that the Marketing Humber will be launching. And a key thing that we're working on as an organisation behind the scenes to sort of get the economic sort of thing moving from our perspective is we're pulling together an investment prospectus that looks at all of the kind of clean growth and low carbon opportunities for this region. We're working with all sorts of people on that, and what we aim to do is to sort of launch that, you know, very late on in the year, hopefully at the time when government begin really to sort of ramp up their economic recovery planning. So we will have a very concise document that promotes all of our members and all of our businesses at a kind of regional level in a national and international context. So that's something that we're doing. We know from government that they are now actively behind the scenes working on economic recovery, and there's a big push for that recovery to be clean and green as much as possible. So again, you know, we make the point that whilst it's incredibly painful at the moment for many businesses going through this crisis, that the light at the end of the tunnel is that this region is still in an ideal position to capitalise on the future kind of trajectory of where the UK is going, and those conversations are absolutely still underway. So we just have to get through this and keep supporting each other. So thank you all for coming on, and I wish you all the best and have a great week. Thanks very much, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye now.
Great day. Bye now.